If you love to DIY and make crafts, make sure you stay tuned because in this video I'm sharing 10 very simple craft hacks to make your crafting days go a lot smoother. So I hope that you do find these 10 tips and tricks really helpful. Some of these I use all the time, and then a couple of them I have recently just found out about, but I wanted to share them all with you today, so let's get started. I do want to say go ahead and subscribe if you like DIY and crafting, and give this video a big thumbs up if you find it helpful. So with my YouTube channel and making so many DIYs, things are hectic all the time, and I have 3 little kids that are under the age of 6, and life is just busy, so a lot of times when I am crafting I get pulled away, and sometimes I don't get to just wash my brushes out right away, and they do dry and they get hard and they get to where you cannot use them. So to save those brushes instead of having to throw them away, I did find out you can soak your dried paintbrushes into white vinegar, and it does help loosen the bristles up. So here I have some paint that was left out overnight, as well as some of these brushes that have been like this for a few days now, and I just didn't get a chance to rinse them out immediately, so they have dried and they are not usable. I did try to separate the chalk brushes from the acrylic so that I could test and see which one the vinegar worked on the best. I just poured a little bit of vinegar into the bottom so that these brushes could soak, and I left them in there for about 30 to 45 minutes. After these were finished soaking, I did want to test them out. It did not remove the old paint, it just like softened up the bristles, which still made this to where I could use it. And I did notice that it takes the chalk paint a little bit longer soaking to soften than it does the acrylic paint. So on this channel, I do take a lot of things from Dollar Tree and I turn that into some pretty little home decor, and a lot of the times that is taking like Dollar Tree signs or items and then removing all the labels or sanding it down and then repainting that. And everything from Dollar Tree comes with those great big sticky labels right on the back that you have to peel forever and can't get it off. I used to have to sand it down or soak water, like a wet cloth on there, but then it gets the board wet and sometimes it causes damage to the back of that. So I did discover this year by actually some of you all telling me that heating up the labels with a hairdryer actually makes them come off 1,000 times easier. So that is something that you will want to remember. I promise whenever I'm peeling this label off that I'm not trying to be like one of those dramatic infomercials where I make it look so difficult, but I truly for a long time struggled with getting these labels off, so being able to heat this up with a hairdryer and it just lets the sticker peel off in one piece, which is so much easier. So moving on to number 3, still including the hairdryer, is to use your hairdryer in between coats, and this speeds up the process of crafting and painting a ton. Usually the longest things with my video is whenever I paint the first coat, I have to sit and wait. I have a fan that I bring in, and it just takes so long to wait in between each coat of paint to get things dry. So while I have my hairdryer out that I have removed my Dollar Tree labels with, then I can just dry my paint way faster using a hairdryer in between coats. Now I would be careful with this if you are painting glass. I do like to use the cool setting just so it doesn't heat up the glass, because I have had bad experience, not with crafting, but with baking, and my glass pan just shattering, so I'm terrified of splintering glass flying everywhere. So be careful, don't heat up your glass, but I do like to even sometimes use the cool setting and dry the crafts so much faster. And this just lets me get my craft done way faster, especially if it's something that needs multiple layers of paint. So I tried to show you in the glare of the light how this paint was wet and then drying it just after a few seconds, and it's already getting dry enough to add a second coat of paint. So for crafting hack number 4, it is this super simple way to hang up some really lightweight artwork, like a lot of things we make from Dollar Tree signs that are really lightweight, and a lot of the times they do have jute string hangers. But if you didn't want to add the jute string and you just wanted to hide a little place in the back to hang it, this would be perfect for that. We recently just had our little girls a playhouse built, so I painted them some really cute little dessert decor that I could hang up on the walls, and these really are lightweight, and I couldn't hang a picture hanger on them because I couldn't put a nail through them because they are a really thin wood, but I needed a hanger on the back of these. They are really lightweight, so to hang these up I just used a Coke tab from the can, and I just pulled it off and bent it back a little bit so that the nail would go in there, and then hot glued it directly on the back. This definitely will not hang up something heavy, but for these small lightweight projects, it's perfect just to give it a little bit of a hook for a nail. Okay, so for number 5, this is a little crafting hack that I've never really used a whole lot in the past, but I see it a lot of places, so I thought it would be fun to try out. Now this is something that you are going to have to see for yourself. I'm not 100% sold on it, so I am going to keep testing it, and I'll try to let you know how that goes. But that is to add a little bit of Vaseline onto your hot glue gun, which is supposed to get rid of all those little annoying hot glue strings. But this is something that you definitely want to try for yourself, but I do think that it did help a lot. So I tested this out using some older popsicle sticks, and I don't think my glue gun is the best to try this out on just because it puts out so much hot glue at once. So it did kind of string along rather than being little strings. It was actually like pretty good sized streams of hot glue. So I'll definitely have to try this again with my mini glue stick. And then after adding the Vaseline, I can kind of tell that there was less of the hot glue strings. So number 6 is how to sharpen your scissors for better usage. And I use my scissors on everything. A lot of the times I don't go grab wire cutters, and if it's like a thin wire, I cut, and I know that damages my scissors, or cutting a lot of paper, I know that dulls your scissors. So this is just a really neat way to sharpen your scissors using aluminum foil. So before I sharpen these scissors, I just wanted to show you how it was so difficult to cut through this fabric beforehand, and it just made a really choppy cut. And then I'm just using my aluminum foil and I'm folding it over, and then I just cut through that as many times as I can. After I had made several cuts, I did go back and try to cut the fabric again and show you, and it's hard to pick it up on camera, but it really did glide through the fabric a lot better than it did beforehand. And this is not like cutting fabric with a pair of brand new scissors, but I think it definitely will help out, especially with cutting more paper. So number 7 is how to clean up that annoying glitter that gets everywhere. So I haven't been using glitter as much recently since I made a ton of farmhouse decor, but I do know a lot of the times whenever I make seasonal decor, I do find ways to incorporate glitter, especially if I'm making something for my little girl's room or maybe for a holiday special craft for them, and glitter just gets everywhere. Even when the kids just craft on the table, it gets everywhere. If you try to wipe it up with a washcloth, it just gets all over that and just spreads, and it's just a horrible situation. So for a while now, I have been using this little hack to be able to help me clean up some of that glitter mess. So this table actually has the real wooden grooves in it, so it is tricky to get all of it cleaned up. But for most flat surfaces, if you are using glitter and it gets everywhere, you can just take a little lint roller and roll it across there, and it definitely picks up most of the glitter. And coming in at number 8 is how to make your own Mod Podge. And my Dollar Tree has really small bottles of Mod Podge for $1. And it just doesn't go very far because most of the time that I use Mod Podge, it is on larger projects like going over a big picture or something. So I found a really convenient way, so even if I'm out and I can't find it, or I'm just looking for a convenient way to mix them up, I always make my own. So I've never really done a side-by-side like if there's a big difference, but this still does work really well. It is something that I have used for a very long time and I will continue to use. To make this, I'm just using glue that I already had on hand, and I actually think this brand is from Dollar Tree, but it works really well. And I think the actual recipe is 3 parts glue and 1 part water, but I always just eyeball it. I just use quite a bit of glue and then pour a little bit of water in that. And then I just make sure that that is mixed really well. I do mix it for a couple minutes, and I think that it works just as well as Mod Podge. Coming in at number 9 is how you get those nice crisp lines when using painter's tape on small projects instead of it bleeding in and your lines being really fuzzy. To demonstrate this, I'm just using one of my Dollar Tree signs, and I'm putting a couple pieces of just the duck painter's tape and laying it on there, and I'm going to be using this DIY Mod Podge that we just made, so this is very convenient. But I went over one of the lines with the Mod Podge, and then I just directly painted the paint onto the second tape. After the Mod Podge had dried on the top layer, I then went over it with paint, and then I waited for both of them to dry. Whenever I'm pulling back the one that just has paint on it, you can see that it does bleed. Even though it's small, on tiny projects like this, it does show up. And then whenever I remove the top one that did have the Mod Podge, there is way less bleeding, and I think the lines are way more crisp. And coming in at number 10, my final crafting hack is a DIY stencil. And if you have been on my channel any at all, you know that this is on like every other video. Probably not that much, but it is a lot because I've always loved making signs and decor and wanting to write on them. And you all know I do not like my handwriting, especially on things I'm going to hang up on the wall. I just don't think it gives it more of like a professional or store-bought look, so I do not handwrite on there. But I do love to use this way to be able to write on my signs. So to make these stencils or these transfers, I just start by printing them off of my computer, and I try to make them large enough to fit across the sign. I think the larger that the words are that fit on signs, the prettier and more store-bought that they look. And I'm just going to flip them over and take a pencil and shade really dark all across the back. And then if I'm transferring this onto something light, like a white or light gray, and I can just trace over this with my pencil, and it leaves the perfect little marks behind that I can paint inside of this. And then after removing it, you can see the perfect little letters left behind, and then I can just use my black paint marker or a small paintbrush and just cover over the letters with paint. If it's going to be a darker sign like black or dark gray, then I just go over the back of it with a piece of chalk, and then I can trace over there and it will show up on the dark signs as well. So that is all of my crafting hacks that I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, is there any of these that you haven't heard of before? Or let me know some more and maybe I can make another video and let everyone know. I know watching crafting hacks and little tips and tricks really helps me out a lot. Like when my scissors get dull and I'm out of Mod Podge, or I need to rush a craft along, I can just refer to these little crafting hacks, and it really does make my crafting days a lot smoother. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed to Krafts.byKatelyn and turn your little notification bell on, especially if you love to DIY and make crafts, because that's what we do here. So thank you all so much for watching, and happy crafting. Bye!